This podcast is sponsored by $Dollar Analytics and is brought to you by $Dollar Business Solutions. Hi, I'm Eden Mary Gator, and this is the beginning of the economic series where I talk about the 6 major economic models that can potentially be developed for the Bahamas. Just to give a quick outline on how I intend to approach this series, I'll start with this episode talking about the digital economy, and I'll end the series with an episode talking about the conceptual economy. Each of the other economic models I'll cover in between. And the reason I want to start this series with the digital economy and end with the conceptual economy is because these two particular economic models can be considered as the two bookends for which all economic models fit in. By the way, it will require a more in-depth discussion when talking about each of these economic models. So this series is just meant to give a basic overview of the possibilities that each economic model can provide. I'll follow up with other episodes after this series to give more detail about how we can build on some of the major points that I'll mention throughout this series. So starting now with the digital economy has become the most fundamental economy where it continues to permeate and transform every sector and every industry, and it's even transforming all the other economies as well. So the digital economy is really quite broad, especially with all the dizzying array of technologies that is comprised of. I mean, there's artificial intelligence and information technology and the Internet of Things. Then we have blockchain and robotics and virtual reality. Then there's augmented reality and quantum computing. And the list just goes on. And everything that makes up the digital economy will constantly change how we interact with businesses and industries, and how we interact with each other, and how we interact with just everything that surrounds us. And we know this. But in light of the constant change, and in light of all the new emerging technologies, the most underlying value of the digital economy is in the data that's generated. So no matter the plethora of technology that exists, no matter the amount of new uses for these technologies, it's the data that is the result of all of that, and it's the data that is in turn the key driver of everything. Data is what underpins digital transformation, and it's the very thing that drives efficiency and change. Data is actually the reason why many of these newer tech products and platforms are even being introduced, because every day more and more tools are being built with the functionality to cultivate and interpret data more and more efficiently. And if we look at many of the major companies that dominate the digital space, the ones like Facebook and Google and Amazon, in the purest sense, these are all data companies. They aggregate data and they use that data to deliver services. And all businesses will need to become data-driven or cease to exist. So data is the new gold. It's the new oil. Essentially, data is the new currency. And it's the currency to know who, why, what, when, where, and even how. So for Bahamian businesses, data is the currency to know who your customers are, and to know about the what, when, and where, and the why and how of all factors affecting your business. And when you can cultivate that data, for your business, it becomes your own personalized data. So your customers become your own personalized data that you can sell to and build relationship with. Now, in terms of the possibilities of a digital economy for the Bahamas, a lot of ideas have been put forward in national discussion about how we should plan to prepare Bahamians for the digital environment. And many people promote the need for Bahamians to acquire digital skills, where we want people to learn how to code and program computers, and we want people to have the skills to build websites and put together drones and robotics. And there's also a want for Bahamians to learn how to hack and aid in cybersecurity. And while that might seem quintessential for a digital economic model, where we can have people equipped with digital skills, we need to first explore the context for how these skills would even fit into a digital economic plan for the Bahamas. For one, coding as we know it is becoming more and more obsolete because artificial intelligence, or AI as we call it, has taken over the task of coding. So now you can simply instruct artificial intelligence to build any website or any complex software that you want. The digital skills needed today have shifted to artificial intelligence and to data science, where developers are now tasked to feed information to artificial intelligence and teach it how to interpret data and how to gather insights and how to perform tasks like coding. AI is also being taught how to hack for cybersecurity, and it's also being taught how to build robotics as well. So the traditional role of computer engineers and of software developers have changed, where they need to now specialize to develop and design artificial intelligence. And even if we were to think that Bahamians could do this, or at best that we could prove ourselves to produce some of the world's top developers in artificial intelligence, or produce some of the world's top data scientists, here's some perspective to consider. There are countries like India and China and even others who are super proficient at coding and at engineering computers. Yet those countries require significantly less pay. So no matter how proficient Bahamians get at any digital skill, we can't compete with the low-cost labor that other countries can provide. Not to mention, some of these countries have been coding since the very start of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and they've established a worldwide reputation for being highly and brilliantly skilled, and we're just trying to catch up. So not only are these countries top of their game, but they deliver at super low cost, and they're a highly efficient, highly advanced, low-cost labor pool for the world. So just consider a Bahamian who just got a computer science degree and who expects to be paid a salary of $100,000 per year. How could that Bahamian compete with someone from, say, India, who already has a ton of work experience and who would work for a fraction of that cost? The average salary in India is about $400 for the entire year. That's way below the salary that we expect for ourselves. So we can't rely on competing for digital jobs on a global scale, because even though data scientists and AI developers are in high demand, that's just because the demand for these skills are relatively new. But trust and believe, those experienced developers in India and in China and in others, they're making the shift to quickly fill in those jobs. So you can very well be hired as a data scientist today just because the demand is there. But tomorrow, you might also be out of work because someone else can do the job for less pay, and they might even be better at it than you are. So while Bahamians should absolutely be prepared with having digital skills, in terms of developing a digital economy, we need to first have a comprehensive outlook, and only then can we see how digital skills can fit into our plan. Considering that data is the underlying driver of the digital economy, the best way to start developing a digital economy is to take a data-driven approach. We actually use data to get a sense of the possibilities that exist. And I think that what most of us tend to miss is that in order to build within the digital economic model, it's not just about the skills or the technology, but it requires a digital mindset. And a digital mindset has nothing to do with the ability to use technology, but rather it's about being able to foresee the possibilities and how possibilities can be achieved through the power of technology. We actually use data to support a digital mindset because we can't rely on what we think we know to make smarter decisions. Data in the purest sense reveals what actually is. But not only does a data-driven approach require that we tap into the data around us, but it requires that we learn to harvest the collective intelligence of the market as well. And that's important because we can't do everything on our own. A business can't be everything to itself. Yet, this is what many local businesses tend to do. Many businesses tend to lean on their own understanding and try to do everything themselves. And I use this analogy where you can buy a camera, but if you don't know how to use it for your business, or if someone can use it better than you, then wouldn't it be best to simply hire the expertise that's needed to avoid making mistakes that you don't have time for? If you don't know data, and you don't know business analytics, and you don't know targeted marketing, even if you think you do, there's likely the potential that it can be done better with expertise that you don't have. So just harvest the collective intelligence. We don't have to tackle everything on our own, and we shouldn't try to even avoid the extra penny to hire the right expertise. And this is where having a comprehensive strategy comes in, because when planning from a real strategic business view, we can take into account the cost of acquiring all the right expertise that's needed to grow our business the right way without having to cut corners. And in turn, we can project the amount of net profit and net gain that can be generated as a result of having that expertise. So it's best to view costs as simply a means to become profitable. And that's what a comprehensive business strategy is for. It's a calculated plan for your success. And as we work towards developing a digital economy, businesses and organizations will need to have data-driven strategies, and it will require the right expertise to design and deliver on those strategies. But do know that all of this is part of a continuous process where data intelligence will cause our business strategies to always have to be updated. So the business structure and tools that we use will become more and more digital, and it will also continue to change based on the demands of data. Soon enough, all businesses will become completely digitized. But I want us to recognize that the actual process, the continuous process of harvesting data and harvesting the collective intelligence around us, and then allowing for our business as well as our digital infrastructure to improve as we receive new information. That whole process is a data-driven process. And as we continue to practice it, it will create a culture, a digital culture that will drive growth for a digital economy in the Bahamas. We haven't even touched on the global aspect, where the more our businesses become digitized and the more they become digital businesses, the more likely they are to become global businesses. And that would definitely be a means to bring new revenue into our economy. Now, here is where I want to pause to say that one of the reasons I'm proud that this podcast is sponsored by $1 Business Solutions is because $1 Business Solutions specializes in real-time data analytics, and they provide data-driven solutions for businesses. They also specialize in market research and analysis that can be fine-tuned for both the needs of the private sector and the public sector. Also, some of the key services they offer are advertising and marketing solutions that's powered by smart analytics. And I want you to know that when we talk about developing a digital economy, in the truest sense, a digital economy is something that grows with data. Harnessing data is what fuels it. So if we want to see dynamic growth of this economy, we need to allow for businesses and organizations to become data-driven. And we can start now. We can start doing that now by acquiring the right expertise to make it happen. Every business is different, so each one will require a unique approach. So should you need to create or rethink a comprehensive business strategy, then the company I mentioned, you'll find that Sand Dollar Business Solutions actually specializes in developing business plans that are powered by real-time data intelligence. So should you need the expertise to work with you to design a tailored strategy for your business, then you should know that Sand Dollar Business Solutions actually offers a free consultation to help jumpstart that process. So you can get a free session to find out ways to transform your business to become digitally data-driven. And there's so much value that you can get out of that session, and it's free. And all you have to do is call or message. The WhatsApp number to schedule an appointment is 825-9300. Again, that's 825-9300. The email is innovate@sanddollarbusinesssolutions.com. Or you can visit the website, sanddollarbusinesssolutions.com, and schedule your free consultative session. Right now, I think we can agree that businesses are the backbone of our economy, especially small businesses. So it's super important that our local businesses become data-driven, so that we can create a digital culture for a digital economy. And I want to highlight another possible way to support a digital economy through leveraging data, of course. And to do that, I want you to consider that when steel was first introduced, it completely revolutionized the second industrial revolution. Because of steel, skyscrapers were built, and that was a huge deal. I want you to know that that's what data is for this fourth industrial revolution. Data is like those skyscrapers. So instead of having Bahamians simply compete to be the labor in this new digital environment, the Bahamas could focus on our potential to become like the Swiss bank for data. What we want to become is the custodians of data for the world, where they all want to come to make a deposit with us for their data to be protected and secured. And I actually talked about this in the first episode of this podcast. So if you haven't listened to that one, you can do so for more details. It's only about 6 minutes, but it explains how the Bahamas is in a unique position to readily become custodians of data. Our Constitution actually allows for data protection in a way that can also be interpreted digitally. We just have to pass legislation to have data protection in the Bahamas. And being a sovereign country, we can provide constitutional sovereign data protection, which once people realize that we can protect their data at such a high level, they could seek digital citizenship in the Bahamas, and we can extend data protection to them around the world. This could unleash tremendous opportunity for the Bahamas. It will also add to a digital economy. And as I said, we're ideally positioned to take on that role. So data is where it's at for Bahamians. Data is our way forward to develop a digital economy. And should we choose to encourage Bahamians to become skilled at data science and at developing artificial intelligence and other technologies, it should be from a digital mindset where we could encourage Bahamians to imagine possibilities. They can use their digital competency to bring about innovation and introduce new solutions for the Bahamas and for the world. And they can even employ the skills of the low-cost labor market of the world, to execute their ideas and strategies most efficiently. That in particular can allow for us to produce our own tech solutions and products at scale, because we can employ a low-cost labor pool to deliver on our innovations. And I mean, other developed nations have caught on, so let's work smarter, not harder. What I don't want to overlook, though, is that when our businesses and organizations become data-driven and digitized, the local need for digital skills will increase. And although we shouldn't depend on Bahamians to compete against low-cost labor on a global scale, we can still take advantage of many of the jobs that will require digital skills in our local economy. In fact, Bahamians who have the digital mindset along with the digital skills, they could be absolutely valuable to have as we work to transform our local economy and as we work to develop a digital economy. So we definitely want people who are immersed in Bahamian culture, because they're more likely to have contextual understanding to see the possibilities of how digital solutions can be applied locally. So again, as the local need for digital skills increase, the more available jobs there will be for us. And as we move to take on those jobs, it will only add to the digital economy. Just before I end this episode, I know it would seem that I used quite a few terms interchangeably, but I wanted to be quite intentional with how I use certain terms. And I just want to quickly clarify what those terms are, and I think it's important for you to know. For one, the terms technology and digital can seem synonymous, but when I refer to technology, technology is actually the hardware and the software. It's both the hardware and software that makes up the entire body of the digital economy. Now, digital refers to the processes. It's the processes that emerges from technology. And data is actually the fuel. It's the fuel for both technology, and it's the fuel for what we know as digital. So think of a body that always has to be upgraded with the requirements of data. And there's always new data and new information that's being generated. But the body in particular, the body being technology, technology is both the hardware and the software that makes up the infrastructure of the digital economy. And it actually goes through a continuous amount of upgrades as new data and information is generated. So as the demand of data increases, and as the demand for data increases, so does the need for technology to be upgraded. This applies to digital as well, because the processes that we use need to always improve with data. And the last thing I want to address is that digitization is not the same as digitalization. I know they sound similar, but they're actually quite different, and they work hand in hand. So digitization is actually the conversion of analog, where we convert analog to a digital form. So for instance, when we convert hardcore paperwork files and we scan them to a computer, we're actually digitizing those files, and that's digitization. Now, digitalization is actually the use or the application of digitized information. So when we scan the files, that was digitization, and our ability to now access and use those files on a computer, that's what digitalization is about. It's the use of digitized information and processes. I know those two terms are, tongue twisters, but I hope I was able to clarify, because we exist in a digital world now, so we should definitely know what these terms are. In fact, speaking of a digital world, there is actually a global digital economy that's distinct from our local digital economy, and I'll talk more on that in another episode. But for right now, this episode is getting way too long, so I'm going to end it here. I'm interested to know how you think we should develop a digital economy for the Bahamas. So please comment your thoughts. But do remember, our strategies for developing a digital economy must always start with data. Data first, always. Data is at the core. Digital skills and technology are subject to change with the demands of data. So they come second. Stay tuned for the next episode where I talk about the possibilities of a green economy. And if you haven't already, go to EdenMaryGator.com for all of my social media. You can choose there which platforms you want to follow to stay updated. Also, remember, you can contact $1 Business Solutions for a free business consultation. And don't forget to like and share this podcast. Until next time, I'm Eden Mary, and thank you so much for listening and for listening this long. Okay, bye.